How many things have you not done because you knew you wouldn't be great at them? Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Mind Your Mouth. I am your host, Melissa Mugno, and today we're going solo. These are absolutely becoming my favorite episodes because 100% transparent, I get so much personal growth out of doing these because it almost feels like a therapy session. I'm so grateful that I get to just have a platform and a place that I can talk about what I've been going through and topics that matter to me. And I get to do it in a place that feels safe. And I am so grateful for all of the feedback I have been getting and the response on the solo episodes. Doing the interviews is, of course, so much fun. And I feel so honored because I get to talk to people that I respect and that I admire so much. And I learn so much every time I do an interview, learning about other people, learning about myself, learning better ways to interview people, also finding ways to create a space that feels comfortable for people to be authentic. Because at the end of the day, that's why I created and started Mind Your Mouth. I started it so that we could have a place that we could have honest conversations that felt really authentic and really were just the same conversations I would have had off camera, on camera, and then be able to bring it to you so you could see different sides and shapes of all the people that we admire, we look up to, or people that just have a really important message that we all need to hear about. And I don't know about you, but when you get to find something that you really enjoy and it just feels fun, all of a sudden it just flows. And even when it's not perfect, which brings me to today's topic, we are going to dive in and talk about perfectionism. And it all started with a lot of things I've been doing, but perfect example, I love doing this podcast, but there are times I started to find it was becoming a little hard for me to film the solo episodes, or I would get a little anxious and I would get nervous with the team when we were going to film somebody or somebody was coming on and I didn't feel like it was perfect. Because let's be honest, perfectionism is a real ism and it's not attainable. It's not actually possible to be perfect because perfect doesn't exist because everybody has their own version of it. So on this episode, we are going to dive in and talk about what perfectionism is. I did some research on this episode. Actually, this is one episode that I kind of did a test run on, me and Ash from the team. I had decided pretty much today, I was like, you know what, I need to do a solo. And I was in the car and her and I hopped on Zoom and I just started to riff and go off on it. And then all of a sudden I said, okay, great. I think I got it. But I wanted to be able to come to you guys today with some research and understanding so we could dive deeper into this conversation. So let's start with the definition, because that's what we got to start with, right? We always got to make sure we're on even playing field and everybody understands what we're talking about and what the rules are. So perfectionism is defined as the refusal to accept any standard short of perfection. But here's the thing, that doesn't mean you always look like a perfectionist. You might not present perfectly. You might actually feel messy, inconsistent, and overwhelmed. But internally, overthinking, judging yourself, avoiding things you can't be great at. Wow. Well, that's a great way to jump in and get started here because I can relate like right off the bat with the internal aspect of that, right? The overthinking, judging myself, probably also not doing some things because the thought, I don't even think I have the ability to possibly be good at it, never mind perfect at it. So is it worth my time? Is it worth my energy to invest time or energy into doing something I don't think I can master? But that's actually so contradictory to everything else I believe in and everything else I preach about and talk about and want to live, is that consistency will create mastery. And mastery, you can literally become a master of anything if you put the time into it. So it really comes down to, do you care about it? What does it mean to you? And, what is it? How is it going to help you? Because then you have to make the decision. Is it something I really actually want to invest or, put my time into? And I think sometimes, or most of the time, we're just doing things and we're just getting through the day and we're going through the motions. And so we don't always realize that maybe we've limited ourselves or we're not doing exactly what we want to do because we're fearful that it won't look right or it won't feel right or it's not going to land the way we imagined it to. Because I think for me, perfectionism also comes from this idea that somebody else is doing it perfect or doing it better. And then therefore our standards actually become that we're trying to compare ourselves to others. And that starts to really bring us down a slippery slope. And all of a sudden we start to spiral. And I know you guys can relate to this. I've talked to most of you about this. And I live it, right? Like there's so many things. I could go down so many different rabbit holes here because I am always trying to do things the way I think they're supposed to be. And a lot of times I've got myself into positions where I'm maybe not present in the moment because I'm so consumed with what it looks like or how it feels, or also worrying about other people. What brought this topic up for me is a couple different things. I've definitely been kind of going through something, and it's all perfect because my healing journey has really presented me with the opportunity that I can take different emotions and different feelings as they come up, and I get the ability to explore them and sit with them and be uncomfortable with them so that I can work through them and understand why they're coming up instead of just suppressing them or moving them. But sometimes it takes months. It can take a lot of time. Maybe there's a scenario or a shift, and then that's the time that I have to, spend in it. And so perfectionism has been one of them as I've been working on doing things with my mom. And it brought me to realizing that my grandmother, her mother, Alice, is also, was a perfectionist. And she used her perfectionism in a way to hide things that definitely weren't perfect. And then therefore it created a standard in which I'm sure my mother felt, and then ultimately I felt. But I do also think that my grandmother had this natural ability to have great style, and she didn't leave the house without looking a certain way in her hair. But I do think she did some of that just because that's what made her feel good. But because she couldn't communicate or talk to us about that, some of us felt like we had to meet that standard all the time. And I think that created insecurities in the rest of us. And I don't think it was done with malice. I think it was done from survival. I think it was just doing whatever you could do in the moment to survive. But then, my daughter, I almost named her a version of Alice, but instead she has her middle name is Alice. I see that my daughter has some of these really beautiful abilities, her style, the things that she likes. She has an eye for certain things. But I also see that, she's striving for something that, that isn't realistic, of always being perfect or presenting herself in a way. And I know that that will contribute to anxiety. And she has, we've talked about this as a family, that she feels that anxiety sometimes. And we all have the mechanisms and the tools to go down those rabbit holes. I just have found that when I get to explore it and understand it, that we can work through it or talk about it. And all of a sudden it relieves some of the pressure. And that is ultimately my gift from God, that I believe is that the ability to talk or communicate was a way of me getting all of this stuff outside of my body and not let it fester inside and communicate it into the world. Some people don't want to hear it, but I have to. This microphone, this camera, it's my safe place. It's a place that I can just be myself. And I'm learning so much about me by putting myself out there and being vulnerable. And I think we all can relate with that. So I wanted to talk about the types of perfectionism as I did some research on this. There isn't just one type of perfectionist. There's the self-oriented, right, which is like hard on yourself. Then there's the social, fear of judgment. Then there's other-oriented, which is like high expectations of others. Okay, so you might not be a perfectionist everywhere, but you are somewhere, which I thought this was really interesting because I think some people just think it's a quick label, but I think most people have some version of either self-oriented or social or other-oriented. I definitely have self-oriented and I definitely have social. But I've realized with business, and especially because I'm going through a season where the business is a lot to do with me, which my name was all over it, right? Myself, my personal brand became like a higher perfectionism of others. And it's interesting, as my business is growing and I'm growing and developing other businesses, I've really realized the importance of actually not being the sole person of the business, like, not making everything about me because that will create the business being less worthy, because then everything relies on one person. And therefore, if someone was to purchase it or to buy it without you, it doesn't stand. And then that doesn't have legs for long term. So can you really have a perfect business if the business is only surrounded by you? No. And that's part of this whole lesson and identity that I'm working through. And as I'm growing and developing as a consultant, as a therapist, as a human, as a mom, as a wife, as a daughter, as a person, this journey is all about self-exploration and exploring who you are and what your gifts are. And are you aligned with that? Are you doing what your soul purpose is? Are you living your authentic version of your life? And if you are, then I do think that all of a sudden you start to get more comfortable in your skin. And the more comfortable you are in your skin, the less you are hard on yourself, the less fear you have of judgment, as well as maybe you'll slow down the expectations of others because you are more in control of yourself, right? If you are happy with what you're doing and you're doing it because it makes just you happy, then everything else is just gravy, right? Like it doesn't really fly or fall based off of other people's opinions. So it's interesting that perfectionism just kind of goes into this full circle of all other limiting beliefs and experiences that not only most of us are having as humans, but especially people that are developing personal brands, building businesses, or just really trying to get to know themselves on a deeper level, unraveling stuff, doing the work on themselves. And maybe that means a client that you're working with from a therapy standpoint as a myofunctional therapist, or maybe a lactation consultant. Whatever your specialty is, I am quite confident that taking the moment and some time to ask yourself, where do any of these things fall into your own situation is only going to make you better at whatever you're spending time doing and giving back. So I really love that idea that you might not be a perfectionist everywhere, but you are somewhere. Okay, so then we have the closet perfectionist, right? This came up because when we were talking a little bit, for a very long time, if you would have asked me, am I a perfectionist? I would have said no, because how can I be a perfectionist when I'm in my mind was such a hot mess? And I didn't always put my clothes away, and my clothes were all over the place. I wasn't always organized. I talk too fast. My mind goes 1,000 miles a minute. I can't always remember your name. My memory's not great. I can't spell. I struggle. I'm really working on learning to listen. So I felt as though I had so many negative things. How could I possibly be a perfectionist when I was so imperfect? So I would have never even used my name and the word perfectionist in the same sentence because I didn't fit any image in myself or the way I saw myself as being perfect. I thought I was absolutely a disaster. And my sole purpose for the longest time was, in a way, just trying to find a way to get out of my own skin because I felt so uncomfortable in it. It was, those dark times. And the dark times are just when you feel so alone, when you feel like you're a mess. And then you feel alone because you don't think that anybody else feels that way. And no matter whatever is happening in the world or how differencing of people's opinions are and how scared people are, I actually think people probably were more scared in other decades and times because they couldn't even talk about how they were feeling. Sometimes you don't want to hear about how everybody's feeling, that's for sure. But I do think it's better to talk about it and hear it than not talk about it at all. And if hearing about somebody else's problems and hearing other people's stories makes you uncomfortable, then you probably have some work to do. And it's probably time for you to ask yourself, why is it so hard for you to hold space for somebody who's just trying to purge and walk their walk and trying to figure out who they are? Because as a whole, we're all on this journey together. We all bleed the same color, and we all have a different story because we all are living our own versions. We're all the main characters of our own story. My novel, I'm the main character. Your novel, you're the main character. But the supporting characters make it a story. It's what makes it worth reading. But when the main character is lost or a closet perfectionist because they don't even believe they're worth the understanding because they're a mess, right? It's really hard sometimes to find the purpose or the reason to do better or to explore yourself or to get comfortable being uncomfortable. I talk about it all the time on the pod, but let's be honest. It's really easy for me to say these last couple of months, things have been really good, but I've been doing some really deep work, and that deep work is uncomfortable at times. It's been uncomfortable for other people that have been really close for me because I'm healing a wound that goes my entire life. It's my origin story. It's my birth story. It's my relationship with my mother. And it's a deep wound. And I got to go deep to heal it. I got to go deep to work through this. And I'm an active participant in it. I'm choosing to do it. It's my choice. No one's making me do anything. And I know it's uncomfortable for people to watch. And people love me and they're worried about me. And I know that most people would say, you don't need to do this. But I say, I do. If you know me and you love me, if you don't know me, I need to do this. Because you can look messy on the outside and still be a perfectionist on the inside. Which, how messed up is that? Think about it. You're a perfectionist and you're a mess. You're a conundrum. You're a complete oxymoron. Maybe that's why you feel like a moron. Because I know I sure did. And sure do sometimes, that's for sure. Oh, it's crazy where it shows up, right? It shows up in so many different places in your life. So as I'm going through this and I'm thinking, how many things have you not done because you knew you wouldn't be great at them? I don't know if anyone saw it. So I went on one of my retreats in November, and music has been a theme this last year for me. Finding the music, vibration, frequency, sound of voice, power of voice. I took a voice lesson, and one voice lesson like really opened up the power of music for me. I'm so grateful for that particular person that gave me that opportunity, because the ability to just recognize that my voice frequency unlocks so much in my body. And my voice has been a tool that I have that has always been low and heavy and deep and dark. It's always felt very rough. And it's because that's how I felt on the inside. My voice was actually a reflection of what was going on. And when I was doing some work and celebrating my birthday, I had this realization that, maybe I can't sing, but I can hum and I can chant and I can, make noise and I can vibrate and I can vibe on a way, because music isn't perfect. Music is music. It's sound. It's a feeling. And there's some music that is perfection for one person and absolute torture for another, right? Because it's so personal, because it connects into your body, into your tissues, right? Like when a song comes on, it's like, it's just power. You know that song. I'm a obsession. When I get like there's an artist that I'm listening to and I'm just like, the song just makes me so happy. My daughter laughs that I love pop music, and I do, because it's fun and it resonates with so many people. And it's like a moment in time when everybody's on the same frequency, right? And I always think, gosh, as a musician, how powerful that is to be able to make people feel joy, because ideally most perfectionists are also people that want to please, right? Maybe themselves or this idea of what they think they need to be. And ideally, perfectionism is your own story and what it means to you. So what I wanted to talk about was, as I was going on this music journey, I decided I wanted to learn the guitar. And I took a lesson, and it's hard. My fingers hurt. I have to remember certain things, and my memory, I struggle sometimes. But actually, I was told that learning an instrument could be really helpful for my memory. So that was why I wanted to do it. And so I came home and I told the kids and I told Joe that I wanted a guitar for Christmas. And I got one. And I signed up for a music lesson and a guitar lesson, and then something happened, and then it got pushed behind, and I haven't even opened the guitar. And it's because I'm afraid I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm not perfect at it, and I want someone to tell me what to do, and I want to learn, and I want to do it right. I'm trying to be a perfectionist at something that there is not a chance in, that I am going to be perfect at this. I am going to be pretty bad, to be honest. And yeah, like I just have to be okay with that, because I want to learn. I want to be able to strum the guitar and hum and sing to myself, or I want to make music, because music is joy. It's like going to concerts. It's important to listen to music. And so, I thought to my area, well, there's an area that I'm freezing myself, right? And then I thought, what is somewhere else that I'm really also a perfectionist? My kids' birthdays. And that's because I overcompensate. And I used to be really bad at it. And it was because I was compensating on my own story, because I used to have a really terrible relationship with my birthday. My birthday was just this thing that became a lot because I created this illusion of what it was supposed to be. And for the most part, I learned a very big lesson a long time when I first started my healing journey, is that I always needed other people to celebrate me because I didn't know how to celebrate myself. And I therefore wanted my kids to always feel so loved and so seen, and so, in which they are. And I love celebrating their birthdays. I do. But I also want to be really careful that I don't create some illusion or some, idea of perfection, because it doesn't exist. And it doesn't mean spending more money, because that was another thing for a long time, as I thought I needed to spend more to create a better experience, to make it perfect. And that's not true. It's about really showing up for someone and celebrating their existence, and also finding out what's their perfect birthdays. And as I'm sitting here talking about it, I have not spent enough time asking my kids what is their idea of how they want to celebrate their birthdays. What do they want for their birthdays? I have always kind of created what I think they want and what they need it to be, right? So it all goes back to having great conversations and really coming up with the idea of what is somebody's aligned perfect day for themselves. Because I do think birthdays bring up a lot of feelings, and I know a lot of them surround about perfectionism, the insecurity of feeling like other people are celebrating them, not wanting people to celebrate them, feeling shy, feeling insecure, feeling let down. There are so many feelings that go hand in hand around birthdays, and a lot of them have to do with this idea of perfect and being perfect and having the perfect birthday and all of those things, right? But ideally, birthdays are meant to celebrate you, and you should be the first person to be able to celebrate yourself. So one of the things that the company that we do try to do is that everybody gets their birthday off, because your birthday should be a day that you get to do whatever you want to do. It should be however you want to celebrate it. And if that means you don't want to do anything and you just want to be left alone, then that's okay. If you want to work and you want to swap it out for another day, that's okay. That's your call, because it's yours. It's your day. And it's a great place to start to play around, to get to know your perfectionism and where it may lie, right? So then the other question comes into business, right? And that goes, do you have hesitations or inconsistencies? Oh my gosh, all day, every day. The inconsistencies and hesitations of the business, not thinking that I'm good enough, that I can do it on my own, that the ideas that I have aren't worth anything. I'm moving past that. Moving past it. I'm working through it. I'm like maneuvering through it. It's like fog in a way. But sometimes even in that, you really do have to recognize that there is no such thing as perfect. It's just what feels good in that moment. The way I've been able to work through some of the perfectionism in business was truly releasing. Well, one was really getting to know what my gifts are from God. Whatever you believe in, whoever your maker is, and where you're aligned in that, getting really clear of recognizing that your maker made you perfect and he gave you or she gave you gifts, and asking yourself, are you in a space where you're utilizing your gifts? And that it doesn't mean it doesn't make it work or that it's not hard to use them, but are you lit up a little bit? Like, that you're doing exactly what your soul was meant to do. And that is really powerful when you can get into that space, or when you start to walk that walk, or you get to join that game, because that makes all of this so much more fun, and it makes it so much more of a human experience, and it makes it worth the time. And I think then it allows you to give back to others, right? If I can't be good at it, then why even try? We've all heard that in our heads. Maybe we don't say it out loud. And it's funny, when I sit with kids or I watch my son play sports, we know the right things to say to our kids. The question is, are we saying them to ourselves? Because I think a lot of times maybe our parents have said things, but then they did something different, right? So like, do as I say, don't do as I do. And we all know as children, we just mirror what we see. Nobody ever just does what they are told. I mean, and if they do, they're compensating in something else, or they're trying to get your approval. And so we're all those children. We're all those people trying to do that. So let's go into perfectionism being an illusion, because it is, right? Perfectionism is not real. The idea, right? But we build our lives around it, because what's perfect for you is not perfect for something else. So that standard is your own standard, right? There is society standards, there's family standards, there's cultural standards, there's all types of standards that are put on us, right? But there really is no such thing as perfect. And again, I'm not saying anything y'all haven't heard time after time, but it's always good to hear it again. And it's always good to listen again and just have the conversation. No perfect relationship. Gosh, isn't that true? Every relationship, the older we get, we start to realize there is no perfect relationship, because people are imperfect. We all have flaws. We all sin. We all do whatever, because we're not perfect. We're perfect in the eye of our Creator, but not in any other way. There's no perfect journey. The journey is yours. And it's really not for us to judge, even though we all do. We all judge. And I judge more than anybody, or as much as everybody else. And yet I have the audacity to walk around and get so angry inside and get defensive when I feel somebody's judging me. Because like all of us, I can make it all about me. Me. My feelings, my thoughts. Be nice to me. Me. It's all about me, because I'm the main character of my story. And I make these things up in my head, and most people are not spending that much time on me. And maybe I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I'm definitely not perfect for everybody. That's for sure. And I don't fit into everyone else's standards. And I do things my own way. And with that, I have to accept the fact that that might not be good for somebody else in their journey. But it's interesting. The things I get angry about are the things I probably want. But the question comes down to is, can you take a moment to look inward, to really look at yourself and recognize where those insecurities are coming from, or what is the perfectionism masking? That's always a really interesting one, right? We create these standards and then suffer trying to live up to them. They're all created, and then we all suffer in some way, right? The journey is suffering. There's a very large part of a suffering aspect that goes along with it. I don't know. When I say that, what comes to mind is like, can you really enjoy the sunshine if you never see the rain? Probably not if it's sunny every day, even though I would love sunshine every day. I do love that vitamin D. I love the sun. It's just that golden sunlight. I just bask in it. It makes me feel alive. It just is pure joy. I have so much great gratitude for the sun too. It's so warm and loving. But you got to sit in some rain sometimes and be still and let things get nourished and quench the thirst of certain things so things can grow. It brings me to an idea of planting, right? I struggle with keeping plants alive, and I'm probably too hard on myself, and I think I can't do anything. I do have these two trees, these two little plants, and I am very grateful. I'm taking very good care of them, and I love them, and I'm so grateful for them. They keep growing, and I'm not gonna lie, they're my money trees. They're literally called money plants, money trees, and I've had them now for almost 4 years, and I honor them, and I nurture them, and I love them, and I keep them in the light just enough, and I make sure I water them, and they are really giving back, and it makes me realize that that's all everything needs. It's a little bit of attention, some love, some respect, and understanding what their needs are and making it a priority. Pretty simple. Life is messy. So we know life is messy, but yet we're trying to make it perfect. Nothing meaningful in life is smooth or perfect. So do we spend so much time on the things that don't actually have deep meaning because we think they are perfect? I don't know. It's a question for you to ask yourself. I ask myself that a lot. I'm sitting in it as there's been some things in the life that I have in my life that we've had the opportunity to sit with. And one of the things is our home in our space. I always had an idea of what my ideal home was, and it was big and it looked a certain way and it was it was this. And then I thought I had it, and then I realized that I felt awful in it. So it might have been perfect for others, but it wasn't perfect for me, and putting myself in a situation that wasn't really aligned with me wasn't great. And yeah, I did things because I was trying to be and do something in that moment. I was trying to fill a void that no house or no thing was going to fill, because I had to do the work inside. Some of the best things that we get, right, are messy. And so I think about my journeys to South America. They're not easy. They're hard. And they're inconvenient. And there are things I have to sacrifice to go do it. Some of it being coziness and comfort. I got to travel down there. I get anxiety sometimes going to a country I don't speak the language. I know I'm walking into the unknown. I know I'm going to learn things and have to deal with things that maybe I don't want to. But man, every time I leave, I feel so much better, and I get closer to my Creator and to God. And I heal a little part of me, and I learn so much about me. But they're messy. And if anybody was to look on the outside, they would say I was crazy. Actually, we know for a fact people say that. Actually, I've had people say it to my face. And it hurts, but that's their opinion. They don't know, because that messiness is the best thing that's ever happened to me. It might not be for everybody. That's not your journey, but it might be mine. Marriage is one of the greatest gifts, and it's one of the hardest and messiest situations that a lot of us know, right? A marriage is only as good as the level of communication and trust, and being able to communicate and trust on that type of level is messy and uncomfortable. And you have to sacrifice a lot, and you have to give in, and it's hard, but absolutely rewarding. There's no such thing as a perfect marriage. And growth. The best growth is when you get the most uncomfortable. You learn so much more from your losses than you do your wins. It is facts. And so being a perfectionist and really allowing it to drive the bus, it's okay to be in the car, but I don't think it should be the driver, because I do think you will miss out on some things that could make your ride so much better and take you to the next level and truly get you to where you're meant to go. The uncomfortable part doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It just means you're in it, which isn't that what it's all about? Is to be in it, to be living it, to having the experiences, to enjoy the vacations, to have the conversations, to heal the wounds, to sit next to somebody when they're uncomfortable, to have to have the birthday parties and get the balloons and get the cake, and laugh at the things that were inconvenient. And usually most of the best stories are the things that were messy or didn't land. But at the same time, I want to say on the other aspect, details matter sometimes, right? Paying attention to the details is important. And being detail oriented is such a gift. And I am so grateful. I have some friends that are so detail oriented. And man, I walk into their house, and the smell of their house makes me feel warm and supported and loved, and I want to be there, and I just love it. And I love how organized the refrigerator is, because I can see everything, and that helps me make better decisions, and that allows me to feel safe in a chaotic mind, right? So organization and cleaning up after yourself and really paying attention. Those are really important skills. Doesn't mean it has to be a perfectionist. It just means being consistent and being respectful to yourself and your space, and then getting to know yourself and exploring yourself, right? And really understanding like where in your life isn't it meant to be perfect, right? Where can you explore the areas that you don't want to spend too much time in because you're afraid of what you might find out? I mean, how beautiful would it be if you can just spend a little time to look in those areas, and then all of a sudden your curiosity over why you're so controlling, or trying versus mastering, right? I don't know, I think of Dora the Explorer, and I always think of Dora and Diego, and they would go on these adventures and they were learning all these new things. But realistically, I am sure she lost her backpack. She dropped things. It wasn't perfect, but it was all about the adventure and the journey. You're not here to always be right? You're here to experience it. And for me, where I want to wrap this and bring this today is when I realize perfectionism goes to a darker place or more of an anxious place, really comes down to head versus heart. Okay. I have recognized, and what I've read and all the research I have found is that perfectionism lives in our head, not in your heart. And when you're not aligned in your heart, that's when the head will take over. Your head represents judgment, pressure, and control. Your heart is trust and intuition and acceptance. When you are in your heart, it usually ends up being perfect because it was perfectly made for you. So simple, but yet so hard. When I'm in my head, I get frustrated. I can be mean. I can be defensive. I can be cold. I don't love that version of myself. I actually get kind of mad at myself. I know people don't want to be around it because I don't want to be around it. So where it comes from, perfectionism isn't random. It is learned. And the truth is, when you try to be perfect or you're creating these standards, your children are learning them. Family patterns, like I talked about with my grandmother, external image, and all of those things that we kind of discussed. The perfectionism mechanism, it's a way of compensating. It's a way of overcoming an insecurity. Doesn't mean you can't be stylish and have the nicest car and also love fine jewelry and like love to drive a nice car. But asking yourself why, or throw the best garden party because man, you love the way it looks and you just love to experience the way people enjoying it. And you just love all of it because it makes you feel like you and you're doing it from your heart. That is perfectionism at its greatest. Sometimes perfectionism is just protection, just dressed up as control. It's really tough, interesting. So I wanted to just run through something real quick. So we're going to put in the show notes something for you to find out. What type are you? Right? I want you to ask yourself some questions, and we're going to put this all in for you to check. When I try something new, A, do I avoid it unless I know I'll be good? B, I worry what other people will think. I get frustrated when others do it right. When I mess up, I beat myself up internally. B, I feel embarrassed or judged. C, I get annoyed at others and blame outside things. 3, I tend to not start things unless I can do them well. B, overthink and second guess everything. C, expect a lot from the people around me. 4, what hits hardest? A, I'm not good enough. B, they think I'm not good enough. C, why can't people just do it right? All right. We're going to give you the results on the bottom if you want to take that test, but I wanted to leave you with something tangible that you could ask yourself. 4 simple questions. So I just want to leave with one thing. You are perfect just the way you are. Just not always in the way you think. but your heart is perfection. Absolute perfection. You don't need to earn your worth. You don't need to be perfect to start. And self-acceptance really is the ultimate start for being perfect. We were absolutely created perfectly. We just aren't perfect because we're human. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mind Your Mouth. I am so grateful that I get to be imperfect with you guys here on this space. So until next time, I'll catch you guys later, Mind Your Mouth community. See you later.